So.
Okay, so about subtitling, is specialized training required for subtitling? I mean, are there options, specialties in translation schools, university, or do you learn subtitling on the job?
There are lots of courses, and I have to say, when I started, I have a degree in languages. I studied English and Spanish, and also French. And I lived in London for a very, very long time, so my English probably should be better than what it is, but a long time. So the colloquial side of my English is very good. When I started doing subtitling, I didn't do any specialized course at the time. I started because I was lucky enough to find a company that was doing some trials. So I did a trial test and I passed. And then they trained me on the subtitling part. They had, and they still use their own software. It's quite a big company that has offices everywhere. On the software side and the subtitling side, and then I also got lots of feedback in the beginning from my colleagues, which were sometimes a bit rough, but it was all very useful. And actually, the feedback from the colleagues was especially useful. After a year doing that, I decided to specialize. So I attended a master. I have a master degree now in audiovisual translation. And I studied subtitling, adaptation, and localization, and so I managed to understand better what I was doing actually on the subtitling side. And having a little bit of work experience and then the study, then I think I improved a lot. And now I would say that 70% of my time is spent doing subtitling work. And I am really busy. I know that all of my colleagues are really super busy. And the deadlines are really tight. So when you do this type of work, you need to be really there's nothing else going on. Like you have 2, 3, 4 days just doing that, and you just have to deliver it on time. There's no, sometimes they can extend the schedule, but it's really rare they do that. And in terms of still training, so after the master degree, I also attended some courses at UCL in London. So at the time I was still in London. At the moment I am in Italy, but I don't know how long I'm going to be here for. And yes, all these short courses are very useful. They were all in presence, and sometimes I also do attend workshops before conferences. I do that as well. So that's the best way to learn. So yeah, I would say that training is very useful. It's not essential. If you're lucky and some company take you on, just go for it. But obviously, there are some things that need to be taken into consideration when you do subtitling. So if you don't do a good job, then you might not get a second chance. So that's the only thing. So it's probably better to even just a short course online or at any university that you have that you know. So it's better. It's not essential like anything, but it's obviously better. And there is lots of competition, because the thing is that lots of people think that subtitling is like watching TV. So it's really fun, and you just have a chance of watching the latest movie and the latest TV series. And yeah, that's true. It's nice. It's a really nice job. I love it. And one thing I forgot to say is probably that in terms of training, if you have if you did study like we do in Italy, we have these languages courses at university where you do languages and literature. That is actually very useful, because most it's probably most movies and TV series are inspired by books, from books. So sometimes people who don't have a literary background, they fail to recognize quotes and references to famous books, and that is that happens. I worked with some colleagues who were really good at translating and doing the subtitling part, and then at some point we were working on House of Cards, but it was the original TV series, the British one, really beautiful. And one of my colleagues was saying, what quotes are you talking about? There's no Shakespeare. And it's like, yeah, so, I mean, some things are quite basic. Yes, it's not like watching TV. You have to watch the file over and over again. At the end, you just know it by heart, like frame by frame. Yes, so you need to like it. Some people don't like it. Some people prefer doing legal translation or technical translation, because also you need to be creative when you do this type of translation. It's difficult when you have to translate the jokes. I did lots of stand-up comedies, and that is very challenging, especially if you have to do it in one day. And it's, you take the responsibility, because then at the end your name is on the file, and if you make any error, it's there for everybody to see. And we see sometimes on social media people are really cool with each other. There's been lots of issues. And then in the background, I know that also my colleagues are watching all these things, and they all talk, and we all know each other, because it's a very small world in the end. And when you start attending conferences, there is one, for example, that is very useful, and it's probably the most important, and it's in Berlin every 2 years. And there we have clients, people from the academic world, and translators. And we all know each other after a few years, so it's it's very interesting.
Wow. Wow, how cool. You were talking about Shakespeare, or it sounds like you must be like an actor learning the entire file like a text to perform at its best, right?
Yes,
it's a bit like that.
Sometimes I end up dreaming about it, because I'm so fully mad, because the deadline is they're so tight, and I do that for like a few days, just that, like hours and hours and hours. And I really, yes, end up it's just in my head. So that is nice if you like it. Otherwise, you might end up hating it. But it's the other really nice part is that it's very varied, because one day you work on a movie, one day you work on a documentary. It's very so you do lots of things. You learn lots of things as well, and it's very, very interesting. So, and also I go now to film festivals when because I like cinema. So I attend lots of events when it's and I hope that they will come back soon, because I really miss it. So.
Okay, do you like subtitling corporate videos, even if they're less glamorous than movies?
Sorry, corporate videos. Yes, I do also corporate videos.
Yeah.
And yeah, if I do them, yeah, that's fine. So there is also another part. There is the part of translating in subtitling. There is also the part of creating the template. So sometimes I do that also for the Italian. So recently, actually, they asked me to rework on the movie Il Postino, which is one of my favorite movies. So I translated that into English. Then when I do that, I normally ask for someone native to review, obviously, because I'm not English. So, but in that case, I created the whole template. and then I created English translation, and then from there they translate into other languages, because the language combinations in the subtitle is as in the commercial translation. Most documents are created in English. So even when we work on, I'm working on something in Arabic at the moment, which is really strange because I don't understand almost anything. I have the English template, so I have no way of knowing if it's correct. And therefore it's a kind of an issue, and it's been discussed, because lots of people say that the template should be in the original language, and they should find translators to translate it from Arabic to Italian, for example. But it's very unlikely it's going to happen, because it's the timetables are, the schedules are really tight, and there's no time to find all these language combinations. So they always start from English. It's really rare that they start from another language. But it's an issue because, for example, I worked on a Spanish TV series recently. This is coming out in November, and because I studied Spanish, I could see and I could hear and I could see that if I translated directly from English, it would have been really bad.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt you for a moment, but we have a question from Anne. Anne is asking, can you explain what you mean by the template?
Sorry, when you, it's a document, it's a file that you create, basically creating the subtitling boxes with the time codes. So you need to create that. There are some criteria to follow when you do that, and that is the same for corporate videos or any type of video. You have this file that's created manually on a software. There is a subtitling software. It can be any subtitling software. There are lots of them around, and you just divide you create the subtitling boxes, basically, so with the dialogue. So that's how it's done. And then from there, you create the translation from that file. So normally I work with a video and with a template, unless I am the one creating the template. It's not difficult, it's just really time consuming. There are some rules to follow, and you need to have a software, yes. There are lots of different software. Some clients have their own online platform. I would say that actually most of my clients, even the ones that do corporate videos, have their own online platform, because you can't really do it properly otherwise. And when we do the translation, normally it's really rare that we have to touch the timing, but sometimes we do, because maybe the line is, there is a certain reading speed to be, that you can't go over, because otherwise you can't really read. So you need to condense. You need to fragment the dialogue in a certain way so that it can be read properly. So the lines that belong together, they need to be together. And the reading speed needs to be low enough for people to read. Otherwise, you can't read it. And if you don't have the video on the same page, it's really, and you can't see the subtitle on the video, you can't really tell. And sometimes you have to merge or there are some technical aspects. So it's really important to use the right tool. Otherwise, it's, you can do it, but it's never going to be right. And some clients also use now, they have some kind of automatic translation that they add to the online platform that they have. And it does help, it speeds up a bit. The risk is that we found, I am in touch with lots of subtitlers. The risk is that you don't see the errors anymore at some point, because the translation is pre-filled. like any other machine translation. Sometimes after a long time you've been watching this file, reading this file, you don't see the errors anymore, and also it flattens the style, because you tend not to correct anymore whatever is not really wrong, but then it removes some of the creativity from the work. So it's a kind of risk to do that. I think that that kind of automatic translation is really good for legal translations, for example. But in creative translation, it's not so essential. It does help, I have to say. You get used to it, and it actually saves you time. But it's not at the point of really replacing us at all, because there are lots of errors, and it's kind of funny as well, because sometimes the translations are so absurd that you wonder where it comes from, because so we send the screenshots to each other of this, look at that.
Yeah, the same with classic machine translation for less multimedia translation. We all agree on that. We always need human translators for any type of translation. So we have a question from Elaine, and that was the question I was going to ask you. What subtitling software would you recommend, Silvia?
I have to say that I really rarely use my own subtitling software, and I work on a Mac PC. I've been working on a MacBook Pro for a long time. So I have a software that is suitable for Mac, and there's only one that I know of, and it's called Annotation Edit. The price of the software is much lower than the other prices for PC, the other prices for software for PC, because it's around 300 euros. It's okay. It's quite basic, but it's okay. It does what I need to do. I haven't done any big investment because I don't have enough work in that sense to justify to absorb that that expense, because my main clients have their own software. So two of them, they have an online platform which they keep updating and improving. The one of them has improved this platform massively. And I have another client who's using our software. There is a desktop software, and therefore I haven't invested. I know that there is a very good software that one of my colleagues is using. Lots of my colleagues use, and it's a Subtitle Next. And then there is a company, there is an Israeli company called Una, spelled with 3 O, NA, and they are very good. I met the owner at a conference and some other events. And he also works with one professor at Roehampton University, who's an Italian girl, she's a friend of mine, and they work together. And he supplies the software to the university to do courses, because it's an online platform, so it's very flexible.
I have a question.
So most companies are going to the direction of using online platforms because they're easier to update and cheaper as well.
Okay. I have a question, Silvia. Have you ever heard of Caption App? It's another software for subtitling.
Yes, there are lots of some are available free of charge. So when I did the master, we used lots of different software. There is one called Belle Nuit. There are others. I still have them installed, but I never really actually use them. And I would probably invest in an online tool anyway, because the files you have to work with, they occupy lots of space, and they are much more flexible.
Elaine said, my internet connection is really bad. Can you write the name of the software here, please? The software you're using, because she couldn't hear.
Yeah, chat. In the chat. Yeah. Okay. So the online software, the online platform software, whatever we call it, is from this company called Una. I use for Mac annotation edit is from a German company, and you can also use it in combination with some video editing tool. Because and it's quite interesting. It's at one of these conferences, I attended a workshop for creative subtitling. So creative subtitling is that the subtitles are placed in different parts of the screen. So there has been some, so normally the subtitles just this boring white line at the bottom of the screen. In some movies, they did this experiment, which works. And you can see that in animation, for example, they use it already. They use more in animation. So the subtitles is around, it moves around with the character. It becomes bigger when the voice is louder. They change color if the character is angry, or so it's visually nice to see, and especially for hard of hearing, it's nice also. It's nicer. Yeah, so that is one. Then there are others. I can check on my.
We have Anne who's asking, can you or anyone recommend any good short courses, particularly for Mac annotation edit? Yes.
No, for annotation edit, I don't think there are any courses. It's quite intuitive. You download it, and if you attend any subtitling course, they're all the same. And then when you open annotation edit, you will just use it. Because they're very, very similar. Even the online platforms, they're very, very similar. Some are more intuitive and easier to use. Some are more clunky, but it's, once you know what you're doing, you just find out. But I know that I think Una maybe is organizing some courses, but through the university in England. I don't know in your countries, but there are other. I can look it up and send you some online courses, because some of my colleagues also are organizing courses through different organizations. So it's very easy to find, but attending one in person is better, I think, if you can.
Okay. Okay, so you said that most software are compatible with CAD tools. Are they compatible, for example, with Studio, with MemSource or MemoQ? Or
No, because there's no need. Well, okay. No, and also there is a privacy issue. We sign lots of NDAs, more than any. Sometimes we don't even have the real title of the features we're working on. So no, the files we receive don't go anywhere. They stay in the software. That's why they have their own software, because the files need to be there and just go. There is one client who doesn't even allow us to download the translation, so they don't connect to other tools. So there is no translation memory in this software, but also, I mean, every file is so different that I can't actually see what would be the use for a translation memory. We have some are connected to some documents. So we receive like short guides, glossaries, and we have this. So if we work on a TV series, for example, we have a glossary, and we know that certain name is always like that, and a certain noun is always translated in the same way. But the translation memory is not really used. So those CAD tools are useful for corporate translation, but not the but only if it's documentation. But even if it's a training course, I'm not really sure it will be useful. So no. And I wouldn't do subtitling through Studio because it doesn't support the video. So you can't really see the subtitles on the video in the right way. It's not flexible enough in that sense. They are two completely different things.
Okay, so you were describing the process for subtitling. Are the steps the same for more classical formats like a document? Is it very different from a translation, or are there some big differences?
Yes, when you do subtitling, you have to condense. That's probably one of the main things. So when I translate another type of document, a creative document, and I don't have to condense, is a different approach. When you subtitle, you think in a certain way. Then really depends on what you're doing, because if you do lots of dialogue, it's very different than translating a website. But so yes, it is different. It is different, and you need to get accustomed to the condensation. Sometimes I review files of people who never did subtitles, and you can tell because they don't condense. They write as much as they can, but you don't really need it because otherwise you can't read it. And then lots of people, they ask me, but why is the translation in the subtitles different from the adaptation? Well, because there are two different things. They're very different. So when you watch a dub file, it will be different.
Are there any languages or language pairs that are harder to work? Yeah. Just remember to cut your microphone in order to avoid those background noises. So
some languages now, I mainly work from English, but as I was explaining before, because the templates, so they always create a template from which everybody starts in English. So even if it's I don't know, a Mexican telenovela, soap opera, it's going to be in English, and then you hear the Spanish audio. But yes, I find difficult to work on an audio visual that I don't understand. Yes, because I don't know if it's right, if it's wrong, and sometimes I can't say if it's I don't know. When they write you, it can be anything. It can be singular, it can be plural, it can be formal, it can be informal, and if they don't leave any notes, you don't actually know. So these are common mistakes that can happen. Also, the inconsistency that you forget that character is formal and then it becomes informal, and just like. And then what's difficult is to translate the humor. It's very difficult, and cultural references, songs, poems, rhymes, jokes. It can take a long time. And then maybe it's all wrong. No, I mean, you do your best, but we sometimes I chat with my colleagues because we all know that we have like 1 hour to translate one song, and it's just, you know, it's difficult. So it's not really the language; it's the type of work you're doing. And then if it's like, I don't know, a documentary on science, you need to research the terms. You need to use the appropriate language, register, so it changes. Yeah, Yeah, it's all good.
Okay, so yeah, so what elements do you need to, because when we think about subtitling, sometimes we experienced some bad translations from amateurs, from beginners translating their favorite TV series like Game of Thrones or their movies. What do you tell your clients to guarantee high quality subtitling? Regarding the threat of automatic subtitling, amateur subtitling, and pirates?
Yeah, there's been lots of discussions about that, and I think it was 3 years ago that there was a big issue with fan subbers. So fan subbing now is illegal. All the websites have been taken down, I think, across Europe. But in Italy, they were like almost like celebrities at some point. And we were all thinking, what is... And my friend who works at Roundtable University, she did her PhD on that. So she pretended to be a fan subber for a while, and then she wrote her thesis for the PhD. And so fan subbing is not good because they actually they not only because of the translation, not because they do our job for free, but mainly because they download the videos for free and they put them available online for free. So it's not really, so it's really illegal. So that is gone, fortunately. The quality, there are lots and lots of checks, and it's becoming really stressful, especially for one of my clients is becoming really stressful because they do reports, monthly reports with all the errors. So every translation that we do for this client is proofread. I also do proofreading for others. Every error is cataloged. So you have different types. Grammar, spelling, objective, subjective. The timing also is corrected, so they look at everything. Everything is marked. Everything goes into a report that we receive monthly online. And whoever goes over a certain percentage, which is really low because it's below like 0, always is out. So because there is lots of competition, and then at some point they recruited lots of people because there's a lot of work. Now they're getting rid of some dramatic and stressful sometimes. Also because they create, sometimes the people correcting are not qualified enough. There is also this irony, which I recently found out that happens in books even more. I attended this literary translation course, and I met some people from some editors from publishing companies, and it came out that the editors are often like really new translators, or they're not experienced translators. Like instead, it happens in the corporate world where normally the proofreader is like a super translator. So that is really strange. And then in subtitling also that can happen. So the clients I work with, they know that. So the reports are taken into consideration with some examination, but it is stressful because if you receive a report with lots of errors, then you have to go through the file and check and then justify every single thing. And it's, yeah. So you really need to love it because it's a lot of work before, during, and after, because it doesn't end when you deliver the file. It comes back to you if there is a problem. So if you don't do it properly, it can be a real issue. You can just lose a client every single time you work. because that's how it is, and because people talk on social media, so it's it's a problem. I mean, sometimes it's good that they talk, bad or good, whatever they say can be fine, but you don't want to be the translator that is pointed to because they made that error and that other error. So it's yeah. So that's how they try to ensure quality, and then obviously we are all human, and then the file goes through different stages. It goes through different people, so it can happen that it's a mistake. We all do mistakes, so.
Okay, so we have more questions. We have a question from Anne, who's asking, how are fees worked out?
How, sorry?
How are fees worked out?
Fees. Subtitling is paid by the minute of video, because as from what I understand, everything in the movie industry is paid by the minute. So it's that's how it's worked out, and it can be high and low, like in the other translations fields. So it's some clients pay very well, some clients pay not well. Some clients pay a rush fee, so if they ask you to deliver the following day, there is like 50% more, which then you do if you think you can do it. Obviously, for the clients that they pay more, everybody wants to work for these clients, so the quality is higher. There is more competition. It's very difficult to get in. And it's very easy to get out if it doesn't work well. But some clients pay very well, so it's nice because you work on something that you like, it's paid well, and everybody's happy. But it's hello. So, but it's nice to be paid like a normal fee, that you don't have to struggle and work. I mean, I work a lot of hours. But yeah.
Elisa is asking, do you mean spoken minutes? Spoken about this? Do you mean
no, the whole video, because you have to watch the whole video, and also because some clients try to do that. There is one company in London that does lots of work for film festivals, and he pays per subtitle. So everybody is not really happy about him because because the fees are very low, and people work for him when they don't have anything else to do, like just to say. So no, you have to watch the whole video. Also, sometimes there are like the on-screen text that needs to be translated, and then if you don't watch the whole video, you don't know what's happening. So if they pay you just for the spoken minutes and you don't know the two characters were kissing a minute before, then you don't know what type of relationship they have. So you can't really, you know, you have to watch the whole thing. And also it's very difficult for them to quantify the spoken part. So yeah.
Okay, we have another question from Judith, who's asking, for someone new to the subtitling business, what would you say, where to find the first jobs and where to gain experience?
I first found the first job on Prose from an announcement, and then I think actually I found most of my clients there, 2 or 3 on Prose. I don't even remember anymore because it's been a long time. And then yes, I think there. So through announcements. So I would say LinkedIn. Some clients use LinkedIn, and you can search online for the companies who do subtitling work. So I can mention a couple of them. So, for example, in London, there is VSI. They do lots of, if you search online, you find them. They do lots of VSI, they do subtitling, adaptations. It's a really big company with lots of offices everywhere. And they also do other type of translation. They don't just do audiovisual, they do marketing, they do other, they have different type of clients. SDI Media is another big company. They also have a big office in Italy. They have an office in Poland, in LA. They are everywhere. They work with lots of different companies around the world. So these are two big companies. Then there are others. Like there are lots of, for example, then there's, we all know Netflix, of course. To work for Netflix, you need to get on board with one of their providers, which also, for example, VSI is one of them. So if you go on the Netflix website, you can see a list of the suppliers they have. They have a list of suppliers, and they are all available there on their website. They are all rated, and they're mostly always the same, but sometimes they add new and they remove some if they're not happy with their performance. And also you can work with directors. Some of my colleagues work directly with directors. I haven't done that, and but it can be really nice. Yeah.
Okay, nice. Then we have a question from Amanda, who's asking, how long does it take to subtitle 1 minute of video, or asked differently, how many minutes of video can you subtitle in 1 hour?
In 1 hour, I would say most maximum 100, but really you need to be really fast. So, for example, when I did the test because with all these clients, you do tests. They are more or less difficult. So, one of my main clients, they had this test originally like 4 years ago, where we had to translate 100 subtitles in 1 hour. And the test was not on one type of video, it was on 3 different type of videos as well. So there was one TV series, one stand-up comedy, and something else, one movie maybe. So from what I heard from other people who then started working for them, most of my colleagues didn't finish the 100 boxes. So because you need to be really fast. So if your English is not really good, there are some point. So when we did this test, then we had to work on a project. There was a kind of experiment for them. So we had to translate a 1 hour program. It was almost 1 hour during the day. So we had like around maximum 8 hours to translate this file. So it was like doing a marathon. So stressful. You start in the morning like at 8 or later if the file is late, and then you had to deliver by 2 o'clock. It was really stressful. And we were 15 in the team. We all somehow managed to do our work, apart from one person. This person, she was stressing out. So instead of just concentrating on the work, she was sending messages asking, what is this, what is that, and she didn't finish. She didn't finish on time. She left, I think, 100 subtitles, and they were left to the proofreader to finish. That obviously was not happy. And then she was removed from the team because it's like the Hunger Games. Just like, yeah.
Or the Game of Thrones, or Game of Thrones in subtitling.
The Hunger Games is actually you have to compete with each other, but it's not like that actually. But so yeah, you need to be really fast.
Okay, Okay, that's a really hard challenge.
So, for example, I met a Japanese girl. She was working on live subtitling because they also do that, and she was also really stressed out because she was working often by night, and she had to translate live in the TV studios she was working. And so there is also this type of work. You can subtitle for the theater, you can subtitle for the opera. There are lots of different types of subtitling. There is subtitles for the hard of hearing, for the people who can't really hear. And there is audio description. There are files prepared for people who cannot see, so it's the audio description of what you see. So that is a different type of job, but there's also, there's lots of work. There's work to be done for the museums. So, yeah.
Okay, we have a question from Laura. She says, I sometimes work with open source tools like Subtitle Edit or Subtitle Workshop. Have you ever tried them? And do the tools you use have different features?
Yeah, I use them. During the master. So during the master, they made us try lots of different tools. And they are okay, but they are quite basic. So certain things you cannot do. And if you do lots of template creation, then you need a different, you really need to pay. You need to invest in a tool. And as I was saying before, when I do that type of work, I use this annotation edit. Is for Mac, and it's just fine. But they are all very similar. So, and I would suggest to invest, because some can be quite expensive, like over 1,000 euros, and then you need to update them annually, and it's quite costly. So you need to see if it's worth it, because most of it's okay to learn, but then your client is going to give you something to work on, most likely, because they don't like sending files around. They don't like doing that, not even uploading on servers. So if it's more secure if it's there too.
Okay. Okay, good. So, I have one last question. So, if you had one piece of advice or more to give to freelance translators who would like to do subtitling, what would it be? Adding to what you've said before, everything.
Find some online. You can search for some clients. As I said, I mentioned a couple, but there are lots of different ones. And then write to them. See if they have any open position, or search for advertising. And then start from there. And if you have the chance, yes, download one of these free tools, and maybe just do some practice with a video, and attend a course. And normally, if you attend a course, the better the course is, the more advice you're gonna get, and maybe you're also gonna get some contacts or people who are looking for. Especially if you attend a course at university, you probably get some contacts, or you get referred to someone. So these are my suggestions. So you get your training, you look for your client like you would look for a client for any other type of translation, really. And And yes, in the end, using this software is like using MemoQ and Studio. So the more you use them, the more you get used to them. And if you're not sure, you ask. Using the tool is it's quite intuitive. You just get used to it. Once you know, it's fine. It's not that's not the issue. The main issue is to find a good client that pays you well, and they give you some nice work to do. So that's the most difficult thing. So I know I'm saying something obvious, but that can take a long time. Yeah. So it took me, I think, like more than a year to find, probably 2, to find some really good clients. But I'm sure you know that because you're translators, so you know.
Okay, so contacts, looking for opportunities on pros LinkedIn with colleagues, training on tools before taking on projects. That's a good cocktail for subtitling.
Some companies like VSI, they also advertise online. They have a section, so you just get in touch with them. There are some others now. I can't really think of the names, but in London there are lots of them. So.
Okay, we have a question from Eliza. I think it's going to be the last because we've come at the end of the roundtable. Are you working now only with subtitling, or do you make traditional translations too?
I also do other types of translation. I translate websites, and I also do some copywriting. But yes, I would say 70% of my work is subtitling at the moment, and it's just become like, I haven't really looked for it. It's just the market. I wouldn't say the market, but it just happened that it just became more and more for some reason. And that's why I specialized actually after starting working as a translator, not before. So it's yes. So it's mainly creative work that I do. But, yeah. I do other things as well. Sometimes technical translation, but yes, it's rare.
Okay, good. Grazie, Silvia. A really very interesting conversation.
Oh, thank you. I hope it was not too boring.
No, it was really interesting. I loved it.
Okay. Sorry. It was.
No, that's okay. That was really good. So the roundtable is over, but there will be more roundtables and online meetups with Acolad community. With Acolad, I know there will be a second webinar about machine translation. We had the first part about it last July, where you can find the recording on Acolad community website. And we're planning to do the second part by the end of the year or beginning of 2021. So you will find all information in my newsletters on Acolad community chat group, or just drop me an email and I will answer you. And Silvia, if we ever have more questions that come up after the roundtable, can we contact you?
You can write to me. Yes, you can.
Okay.
You can give my email address if you want. You can. Not too much.
Yeah, not too much. Yeah, no, of course.
And if I don't reply straight away, don't worry. I will reply. But yes, you can give my email address.
Okay, so if you can open the chat window at the right side of Microsoft Teams.
Shall I write it here?
I'm writing it here. I hope I didn't make a typo. So it's this.
Yes, .com. Yes.
Yeah. .com. Yeah. Some typo. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, Silvia.
No,
Thank you very much for the very interesting roundtable. Thank you, all of you, for having been here for the roundtable, and I'm looking forward to meeting you again.
Thank you. See you soon.
Have a nice week. Have a nice weekend, and take care.
Bye.
Have a nice evening. Bye.